Welcome to Pucked Up Hockey Moms, the landing space for moms of all ages, shapes, and sizes. And we won't hate it if the non-mom joins either. We just hope your ears are as unfiltered as our mouths, and you're as passionate about hockey as we are. It's time to get offside, ladies, and no whistles are being blown here. I'm your host, Amanda, and today we have Elizabeth joining us to talk about challenges around spring hockey and starting up your own team. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy you're here. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself before we dig into your hockey mom journey?
Mom of one in Victoria. Really not much other than that.
Perfect. That's basic, and we're good with that. So how about you tell us about your first memory of joining the hockey community?
Well, I was terrified, worried about equipment, the fact my kid could barely skate, but everyone was welcoming for the most part. But yeah, being scared, something new for me as well as him is what sticks out.
Yeah, and you have a son. How old was he when he first started hockey?
He was 5.
What shocked you the most about joining hockey?
How utterly unprepared I was. And the early mornings, I really, really wasn't ready for the early mornings with the little ones. I thought that was a little difficult for me because I'm not a morning person.
I mean, some of us think we are, and then you start the mornings and you're like, nope, not a morning person.
No, I was like, I can do this. And I was like, no, these mornings really, really suck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as they get a lot older, the practices get like way later. They'll be like 9 and 10 o'clock at night too, right? Or they still have 5 a.m. practices and you're like, oh, this sucks. It's a Wednesday, not a Saturday.
Yeah, early mornings on the weekends are a little easier to manage than the weekdays for sure.
That's true, except for it takes away like your only sleep-in day, which you're like, damn, there it goes.
Yeah, but you get the rest of your day.
That's true, yeah. What do you wish you knew before you started hockey?
All of it. I was extremely naive when I started hockey. The whole hockey journey with my son. Very, very unprepared.
Yeah. It's almost like having children.
Yeah.
You know nothing. That's fair.
Yeah. Having not grown up with hockey, it was a big eye opener.
A little shell shocked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Then what made you guys choose hockey then, since you didn't grow up with it, you didn't know anything about it?
So my son was watching hockey, like a hockey game on the television. He was about 3 and a bit, maybe almost 4. Yeah. And he just pulled his chair up real close and just went, ooh, and then just started yelling at the TV and got really excited about it. And it was in that moment, I realized, oh shit, I'm screwed. And then from that point on, he asked for about a year before I finally caved because I was really, I was a little hesitant. I was like, here are all these crazy stories about all these crazy hockey parents and all the stuff that goes on. And I was like, I don't know if I want that. I don't know. At the time, I jokingly say it even now, I would have preferred a mathlete.
I wouldn't even know what that looked like.
Yeah. So that's what started the hockey was him really just seeing it and kind of being drawn to it.
Did you try like turning the channel and putting different sports on?
That resulted in tears. So no.
No, just checking.
Yeah.
Because I know we try and steer things away. And I was like, all right, well, he was that game on TV close, then do we change the channel? Although, I mean, I prefer not to watch any other sport on TV because I think hockey is one of the most fun to watch.
It is. I will give it that. It is a lot of fun to watch.
I'll watch other sports I like watching sports in person more than just watching on TV. So other sports are fun in person, except for golf, maybe.
Golf isn't even fun to watch on TV.
I don't find that high paced for me. I think maybe I have ADHD and I'm too I can't sit still for that maybe. So that might be my problem. So does he play recreation or competitive stream hockey?
He plays competitive.
Yeah. And has he did he play competitive as soon as he was able to play competitive or has he done both? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He's done competitive all the way through.
As soon as he was allowed to get assessed for that. That's great. Good for him. What steps has he taken to get to the competitive stream? Did he just do the regular show up and do practices or did he put in extra work outside his regular team practice and games?
He has done a whole mix of things between shooting lessons, power skating, going to gym sessions, lots of time, lots of money, lots of stuff outside of just the regular season practices and games.
Well, that's good. I mean, they always say it takes, 10,000 hours to be professional at something, and it's something that he asked for, right? You're not like shoving it in his face, obviously. And
no, that's kind of the difference. It'd be a lot different if I was forcing him to go to these things. I'd be less inclined to be spending the time or money, but
right, when they just don't want to do what you'd want to take them to. I mean, they don't usually want to just go to school to do math.
Yeah.
But we don't have to pay extra for that. So
if we had to pay extra for it, I'd be like, is it worth the fight? I mean, it is for educational purposes, but no, if he was paying up to fight to go, it wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Would you say he spends the majority of his time thinking about hockey, or does he have other hobbies as well?
He has friends. He chats with his friends and plays video games. I know he really enjoys watching the hockey highlight reels. I catch him doing that quite often. Yeah. But he does have some hobbies and a life outside of hockey too, which I am thankful for because I think he's still a kid. He needs some balance.
Yeah, it's healthy to still do other things.
Yeah.
And still be a kid. Yeah. What is his favorite thing about hockey, or what is your favorite thing about hockey for him?
I think it's the game. I think he just really enjoys playing it. I know he enjoys playing a lot more than he likes watching it, but I think that can be said about a lot of people and the things they choose to do. And honestly, my favorite thing about it is watching him play and be happy with it. As long as he's happy, I'm happy. And that's the big thing. He's made a lot of connections and friends, and it's, had a really big impact on his social life too. So it's been good all around.
Yeah, it's really cool, I find, to watch like all those friendships evolve and stuff. And it's all different walks of life too, right? As they go from season to season, and just like different people you wouldn't normally meet at school and stuff. And it just kind of gets them out of their comfort zone. Yeah,
absolutely.
Nice to see them grow.
It changes and it evolves over the years. Like some kids he's known since he's 5 and he still speaks to. Others, no, not so much. But the really strong connections have stayed, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Great. What has been your biggest takeaway from the regular season so far this year?
This year, every regular season is different. Every year is different depending on the kids, what changes have been happening with hockey in general. But every year I kind of go in with the attitude of it is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. And we just kind of take it from there and roll with it, right?
Yeah. So now that we know a little bit more about you and your son, let's talk about spring hockey, which is a bit about why we got here. Because I know we were talking a lot at the rink, and it's kind of been your passion or horror project. You brave woman. So the regular season of hockey, for at least on the West Coast, British Columbia side, is like September and goes to the end of February. Playoffs are usually in March. For a lot of kids, that is. And then some will go play other sports and hop back on the ice back for like busting off the rust and skates at the end of August and go through the whole assessment process all over again. But for many others, they don't really ever stop playing hockey, like maybe a couple days. Might have a vacation if they're lucky. Otherwise, they just go straight into spring hockey. I feel like this used to be a super small, less organized thing years ago, but now it seems like its own giant thing. Like it's not necessarily mandated by minor hockey now. It's like so many different leagues, or not even necessarily leagues. There's just so many different teams. And they're popping up left, right, and center. There's not really boundaries or zones, and it's a lot more travel. And sometimes it's more intense, I think, than the regular season.
It's all unsanctioned.
Yeah,
so
it's unsanctioned. It's packed in. Like you still have like refs and rules and stuff, but it's just kind of like boom. You shove a lot in from like April to June, sometimes even into July. Tell us what enticed you guys towards joining spring hockey in the first place.
Well, a few years ago, it was just a really big thing. Everyone was talking about it, and it was kind of that FOMO, fear of missing out thing. All of the kids on my son's team were doing it, and we're kind of like, well, what is it? What does it involve?
Yeah.
And he wasn't interested in doing other sports. We had tried field hockey, lacrosse, football, you name it. We would go to those sessions for him to try it out, and he'd come off being like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So it was just that all these other kids were talking about it. So he really wanted to do it. And that's kind of what drove us to sign him up for it in the first place. And it's, you're right. It is a lot of travel. It's a lot of craziness all packed into 13 weeks,
something
maybe
like
15
Yeah, it's like a whirlwind and you're like, whoa, that happened. Okay.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of fun. How many years has he played spring then?
I think about 8.
Season spring hockey mom as well as just a regular hockey mom. That's like it's like double the hockey mom years when you put it into perspective.
It's it's definitely aged me.
Yeah, I feel like it. I know. I tell people all the time, like who are older than me but have kids younger than me, I'm like, no, I'm older than you. Only because it's based on how old my children are. Like, so my kid's graduating before your kid, I feel old. I feel old because that's how old my kid is, and they're like 16 or whatever. Your kid's still 4, so you can talk to me about how old you feel when your kid is 16. Your kid's still baby stages. I base it like not even really on how old I am, but how old my kids are and their stage of life. Yeah, it just feels easier to age myself on them, and then I don't actually think about my
I kind of do the same thing, so don't worry, you're not alone.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yay me. Now I know some years for spring, there's like a lot of commitment issues. Or I guess not some years, it's a lot of years really. There's commitment issues on which team, like kids are waiting to try out for like 2 or 3 teams because there's no boundaries or zones, and it's like can leave a lot of kids in the lurch, right? It's a commitment thing of, well, I'm waiting to hear on this one and I can't say yes because I'm waiting to hear on that one. And so a lot of teams can end up folding and stuff based on like birth years, and leaves a lot of families in the lurch and stuff. And sometimes tryouts will start as early as October and rosters can be complete in December. Is that kind of why you were like, fuck it, let's start our own spring team? Like, were you guys left in the lurch, or you just were tired of seeing people be left in the lurch? And
a bit of both. It was kind of one of those things where, because it is unsanctioned, teams can draw from pretty much everywhere. And that's as much as tryouts are tryouts. A lot of the times they'll have predetermined teams from previous years, like who stayed, who they want to stay. And they'll bring out a bunch of kids, and then it's weeks of waiting, not just, a few days. Like regular season tryouts, it's weeks, and it's hard because, like you said, there are commitment issues. Kids, they have their first pick, their second pick, and their third pick of teams that they want to be on. Of course, they're always going to hold out for that first pick, which makes the wait longer for everybody else. And then a whole bunch of kids did kind of get put in the lurch with teams disbanding or not being asked back to their team for that they were on last year. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and a lot of families this year were looking for something to do, and the options were really slim because it's not like regular season hockey. It is particularly done by birth year. Like you have your 2011, 2010, 2009 teams. And with the 2009 and 2010 group, they're kind of coming towards the end of what spring offers for them. So it's a little more challenging. So that's kind of what drove me to do that and work with and get some help from a few families on putting together the team this year.
That's awesome. Good for you for taking it on. I mean, it's a big project, especially when you're like, all right, let's do it. So yeah, good for you.
I've managed the spring team for a long time, so it wasn't like I knew all the ins and outs. It is a lot of work when you're starting from what's the name? What's the team name? Everyone has a bloody opinion.
Oh, of course. And it doesn't mean, and everyone wants to be heard, and there's just, it's a lot.
Picking out a logo, picking out jerseys. I started back in January and just got everything ordered like 2 weeks ago, and so it's been weeks of dedication and works on getting it all set up, finding a coach.
That's awesome. What was the overall feedback like from the parents when you decided to put a team together?
It really depended on who I was speaking to. Some people were thrilled by it and super excited that there was an opportunity for their kid after they didn't have the opportunity before, or they got dropped or their team disbanded. Others were really surprised and didn't think it was at all possible or to do and put together, and which put more of a fire under my butt to prove them wrong. Because
tell me I can't do something,
right? They're like,
show you.
Well, are there going to be any tournaments? How are you going to do this? And I'm like, easy. we apply for the tournaments. We get it going. Like once we got it going, it's full steam ahead. But it was a really wild variety of opinions. Some people were super into it and like, yeah, let's do this. And then the minute I asked them, or I figured out the budget of what it was going to be, it was kind of like, we're going to go do something else. So that created a whole other layer as well. People being interested until they weren't. But yeah, everyone had an opinion, and it was.
Yeah, everybody always has an opinion, and there's always the people that have like the negative opinion, and you're like, cool. Now I don't want you on the team. Excellent. Well, I have the ability to say no.
Well, when you own the team.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it definitely opened my eyes to kind of a different perspective of what it is in hockey from this angle of trying to put it all together. I mean, which is both good and bad. I mean, just like everything, but
new standpoint of what there is to it. Yeah, interesting. I could see that. What have been some of the biggest challenges? I know you said like building the team and stuff, but other than like setting the roster, say, would be.
The roster is definitely the most difficult challenge, trying to get people to commit, because it's in the beginning when you're in the first stages, you're really putting it together, seeing what the feelers are out there. And then obviously it changes when you add dollar signs, when those get involved, right? When money is involved, it changes.
Ice isn't cheap. Insurance is cheap. Like you want to protect your kid. Like there's kids with sports like running around with knives on their feet. Come on.
Right?
Yeah, and they're ramming into each
and getting insurance was another difficulty because at this age it is contact, which adds another layer to the insurance. And ice is not cheap. Around the time when spring start, a lot of rinks are starting to pull their ice out for other sports. There's the junior playoffs, which that take priority over ice slots, so that a whole layer of things kind of gets added in when you're trying to figure out a schedule for practices. The easiest piece was honestly finding tournaments. You pick your weekends and then just sign, go, done. That was honestly the easiest piece. Which
the application, we're good. We're going to pick these ones. Now it's all the other small details.
And that was, which I thought was going to be the tricky piece, but nope, it wasn't. It was actually the easiest.
Go figure, right?
Yeah.
So I know the season hasn't started yet, but knowing what you know now that you didn't know then, would you do it again from scratch?
Yes, because I know what I didn't know before, and I can just replicate it. It wasn't bad. It is a lot of work, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, and it's a lot of navigating people.
Yeah. It is a people thing, this community we call hockey, and there are a ton of benefits to having the hockey village. Sometimes there's some downsides, the gossiping, the drama, the whispers and stuff, but I'd say there's a lot more benefits that come out of it overall for our kids than there are to the negatives. And it's a lot easier to just be like, I'm not in high school anymore. I'm going to ignore all this crap and just keep going with this. So yeah, if you just kind of continue with that mindset, it's a lot easier to keep going. Do you see yourself to keep going with this if
everything works out the way I hope it will? I mean, we've been able to do a lot of really great things, getting a really set static schedule. That was kind of a real hope of mine. And I was able to achieve that. So that was great. So just because we do have kids driving down from other areas on the island for practices. So having that schedule was set. But yeah, if it all works out and there is interest for next season, I would definitely consider doing it again.
How does your son/family feel about you taking this on? What are their thoughts?
My son is happy. He is definitely thrilled to be able to have the opportunity and to go do it with like some of his friends, teammates. Everyone else thinks I'm definitely crazy for taking on this much work, but they're supportive. They just think it's a bit crazy, and maybe they're not wrong.
Normal's boring, so it's fine. What advice do you have for anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation and contemplating starting their own team, like spring team or something like that, something similar?
Brace yourself. Like I said, everyone is going to have an opinion. It's definitely not going to be easy. And give yourself time. If you do think this is something you're going to want to do, maybe start a few months. October, November seems like a good time instead of waiting till like mid-January.
Yeah, maybe more than 6 weeks would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Give yourself time because it is quite a bit of work and you want to make sure you're doing it right.
Is there anything else that I didn't touch on that you would add?
Not really. I mean, spring is a very different beast than regular season.
Yeah.
Every tournament's different. It's run differently. It's different organizations kind of doing those tournaments. So just look at what you're getting yourself into. And it's not cheap and it's quick. It's hard. It's fast and it is intense and does require a lot of travel.
Yeah. I would say that the kids have a ton of fun though, because it's
They do.
most travel, and some dry land and stuff. But I'd say a lot of the best memories my kids have had is through spring hockey, just because you are meeting people that are from not
other
from
associations and you're making new friends.
And a lot of different coaches that aren't within your realm and dryland specialists and stuff that you don't have access to. So you're learning a lot of different skills at the same time too, or different training styles. And you might end up playing with teammates that you've been playing against all season, which I think is kind of cool because you've had all this beef all year. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey.
It's true. It is very, very true. You know, lots of kids are like, man, I can't stand this kid. And then they get on the spring team with them. And they're like, oh, man, he's actually like really nice.
Yeah. And then they go play against them again next season. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know that kid spring. He's actually really cool. Like,
right.
So, because the hockey community is a small community. So as much as you might have an opinion at one moment, you'll never know if you're going to play with them again. So I think those are some pretty great benefits to playing spring as you expose yourself to a lot of different elements. So.
No, it's true. It's a good time for sure.
Yeah. So what is your favorite hockey term or slang, or least favorite? And what does it mean?
That's really bad because it took me years to actually figure out what icing was. So I don't think I really have much to add to that other than, like 2-3 years ago, I could finally call icing as good as a ref. So,
and the refs missed a lot of those.
I might call them a little too much, but hey.
Well, technically icing is when the puck is shot before the red line and goes into the other zone or whatever. I can't say it properly because I don't have it written in front of me. I have seen many coaches freaking out when it's like 6 inches or a foot within the red line. And you're like, that's not icing. You should sit down.
Yep. Yes.
I think you were beside me when this one coach, who I will not call out any association we were playing with. And I'm like, get some glasses, look up the term. This is not icing. Stop talking.
Yes, it's true. Sitting, watching, and seeing everything is very interesting.
Yeah. It moves really fast too. So you think you see something and you're like, nope, not icing. Nope, they touched the puck. Nope, stop.
Could have reached it.
Yeah, and we all think we're professionals also. So I'm not. What kind of hockey mom cheerer are you?
It really depends. There was this meme that came out and it was like basically based on how annoyed you are with the other team. So I'm either silent or I'm loud, and it depends on who I'm standing next to too. When I'm next to you, I'm a little louder.
I was going to say, so that means if you're next to me, because you being loud is never going to be as loud as I am. So you have
that's not a competition. You win that hands down every time.
But that's why I feel like I need to be loud so that everyone else can let out their inner loud hockey parent. And they're free to do that because I will always be louder. And that is my gift to the team.
It's your gift to the hockey community.
You're welcome. I am letting you be you. It's cathartic and cheaper than other than maybe it's not cheaper because hockey is expensive.
But it really does. It really does depend. So I'm either very, very standing in the quiet, being in a corner, being very quiet, or I'm being super loud.
Yeah. Sometimes you do look like you're sleeping when you're cheering. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's your silent mode. Yeah. I'll poke you next time when I see you. Yeah. What is your funniest hockey story to date?
Well, I guess it's actually when I first met you, but when I first noticed you, and it was at a novice. I am telling the story. You're
totally allowed because people should know that you shouldn't. I mean, there's more than one side of people, and maybe that's fine. You go ahead. I didn't know this. This is a new story to me, other than like maybe a month ago. I heard. story. Yeah.
So it was a novice tournament many, many moons ago. Your son was playing, and he's a few years older than mine. And I was in the box doing the score sheet, and I guess your son had just scored. The ref told me a different number, and that's what I was writing it down. All of a sudden, I hear this big, loud voice right behind me telling me, "No, that is not the right number." And you just went, "You better write that right one down."
I'm pretty sure that was my son's first goal. So to be fair, this was like 10 years ago, but I'm pretty sure that was his first goal and in a tournament. And yes, I was even louder back then.
And I just remember being the longest time going, "Oh my God." And for like the next year, I'd see you and be like, "Oh, it's the mom that yelled at me."
I'm so sorry that I scared you.
Okay. And then we finally were properly introduced, and it's like, oh, she's not so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm scarier than I look and sound. Just because I'm 6 feet tall and loud doesn't mean I'm not actually a nice person with a really big heart. Just don't get on my bad side. That's fine.
You're lovely. But yeah, that is probably now my funniest first memory. Is, had you asked me when this happened, I'd be like, I would have never imagined being friends with you.
I'm very happy that I know this story because I feel like I've repaired reputation in your eyes. Also, I think that's the funniest story I've heard from someone about myself, right? Like, because you don't know what other people think, really.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah. Explains why you're so quiet all the time.
Why I don't say anything and I hide in a corner sometimes. It might have scarred me a little.
I do feel it's fine. It's fine. We're past it. Totally fine.
It's all in the past.
Oh man. Good thing we can laugh about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Does your family play or do any other sports? Like, you were new to hockey, so I know you did not play hockey, but what about your husband?
No. I did ballet and dance. That was my thing growing up. Sports, baseball in school. Yeah. But that was really only in elementary during gym. That was something that I enjoyed. But as for sports, no, sports weren't a really big thing for either of us.
If you could speak to any sport player or any sport, who would it be? Or would you prefer to talk to their mom?
Their mom. Absolutely their mom. I think Crosby or McDavid's moms would be kind of interesting to talk to, but also Brendan Dillon. He has a really interesting story about his time of getting to the NHL. Yeah. And my son met him a few years ago and thought he was really, really nice. And I think it'd be really interesting to get her perspective on what his journey was like.
Yeah, I am so interested in hearing all the mom stories. And I'm collecting them, but now I'm collecting them on podcasts and other people get to listen to them with me. So
absolutely. It's great.
Yes. Do you listen to any other podcasts? And if so, which one would you recommend other than this one?
Well, this is the only hockey one that I know of. Yeah, but as for podcasts, just this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am a massive fan of Crime Junkies. I'm obsessed with Crime Junkies. I think I've binged 5 years worth in about 3 months, but yeah.
That's a lot.
I love them a lot. Maybe I have a morbid fascination with crimes. It's fine.
I'll have to listen.
Yeah, they're really good. They definitely inspired me to start this podcast. So just because awesome. I'm they can do it, I can do it, right? So why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress per usual. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story about your hockey journey and spring hockey, which is a beast all of its own.
Well, thank you for asking me. It's been
it's not as intimidating as you thought it would be.
No, I will say I was a little intimidated about coming on a podcast. I was like, oh.
And nobody thinks they have anything to share, but everybody has something to share. So
that is true.
Very true. We all have something to say. Well, thanks again. And to all the hockey fam, we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in today, and we appreciate you listening. Catch us next week for another mix of hockey tales, tricks, and/or tips.